Today's IGN podcast is brought to you by Fox Digital Copy. It's so easy to view movies on your iPod. Find out how to insert, transfer, go at foxdigitalcopy.com.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Podcast Beyond. This is of course Greg Miller. We are opening the show a bit differently today. If everything is going according to plan, I will be reviewing Fracture today, and this is actually a very heady game. There's a lot to get your head around. It's basically a work of literature, fine literature. And to do that, I have brought in American history expert Colin Moriarty to read excerpts from the book of Fracture, a reviewer's guide that was sent out to all of us.
Yes. Welcome to the world of Fracture in the year 2161. Generations of environmental neglect have led to a series of catastrophes for the United States. Floods and earthquakes have literally split the country in two, separating the east and west coasts both geographically and ideologically. In order to cope, both sides have chosen very different roads to survival. The Atlantic Alliance, made up of the east coast of the United States and Europe, have turned to technology and cybernetics in order to survive. The Pacifican states, made up of the west coast, China, and other Far East countries, have turned to genetic enhancement and stem cell research. These two differing approaches to survival come to a head thanks to one general, Nathan Sheridan. Once a decorated Atlantic Alliance military leader, Sheridan defects to the Pacifican states in an attempt to find a genetic cure for his twin daughters, both born with an extremely rare disease. But his search for a cure comes too late, and his daughters die before a cure can be found. A movement in the Atlantic Alliance to strip the rights of all genetically modified individuals only amplifies his grief. When Atlantic Alliance troops confront Sheridan in the Pacifican capital of San Francisco, the general launches a surprise attack, thrusting both sides of the country into a civil war. Atlantic Alliance soldier Jet Brody must fight his way through the Pacifican defenses and bring Nathan Sheridan to justice, no matter the cost.
Beyond! B-E-Y-O-N-D! Exclamation point.
That's new.
What's up? Yeah, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 62.
62!
I am Chris
Now
Roper,
in
the
harmony.
host of this sinking vessel.
My bird.
It's a submarine. It's cool.
Okay.
And full staff is here. Greg Miller.
Hey.
What is going on? Jeff
Nothing.
Haynes. Ryan Clement. Ryan is getting ready to leave us. Was that disturbed?
I think it was an attempt.
Ryan is getting ready to leave us to go to Japan. He's going to go to TGS,
Yep.
represent the
Yay.
PlayStation team.
Leave.
Yeah.
So if any of you guys are from Japan or happen to be over there,
Yeah, totally.
Get him drunk
Look
on
for me.
sake.
Where are you staying?
yeah.
I don't know actually, and I also don't
that's
want to
So,
say.
so you're going to be a homeless Clements in Japan? Is that?
Yeah, wandering the streets,
You're there.
begging for money
so
and
you're
yen.
there Friday
Sad
through
panda.
when? When do you come back?
So I leave tomorrow,
Uh-huh.
and I come back on Monday or Tuesday
Oh, okay.
of not this
Not
coming
next
week,
week, yeah.
obviously, but the week after.
All right, all next week, every day on my blog, I will give away one tidbit to try to help you locate Ryan Clement.
It sounds like a good
Get him
plan.
drunk on
I'm gonna,
sake,
I'm gonna have
please.
someone showing up
And
at
then
the
film it.
hotel door. Room service.
Ooh.
It wouldn't be the first conference.
Oh.
Let's get right into the Roper report.
Time for some news.
So, some pretty cool news. Some of it is sort of a hint at what's going to happen at TGS, such as the Metal Gear Online expansion details will be given. The first one I get, or there was maps added. I think it was to the beta, so I guess this is the first like full, retail type deal expansion. But anyway, we do know that there'll be 3 new stages, a couple new characters added. Date and price are all TBD, but we will assume that those details will come out next week. Ryan can get those for us. He will play it. He will tell you. We'll see what's happening. Hopefully it is playable. So that should be pretty cool. Little Big Planet is rumored to be coming to PSP.
I don't believe it. I don't see how they could do it.
That would be insane. Awesome.
The rumor is that it's coming to, so apparently Media Molecule is thinking about doing it, or maybe has projects in the work or whatever, and might be doing it. What's kind of cool is that it doesn't sound like it'll be its own standalone game, and it'll somehow tie in with the PS3 one. So you might be able to make levels on the go, or whatever. So that would be kind of neat. Tiberium was unfortunately canceled.
Aww.
EA's little romp into the universe of Command & Conquer is no longer happening.
Well, they've never really had a lot of good luck with their first-person shooters
No.
in CNC. I mean, Renegade was serviceable, but it wasn't that great. I mean,
Meh.
it was okay.
Yeah.
I don't care. Bye, Tiberian. Bye, Ryan Clements.
On the good news,
What the hell is going on?
Ryan's going to get some tournament winners. He'll be back in a second. On the good news is that the
I
Force
forgot.
Unleashed is getting some downloadable content. So
Really?
so there'll be extra stuff to play in there, plus also a bunch of new characters. So you'll be able to play as like Luke and whatever through the game, which is pretty rad. totally breaks the
mythology completely.
But it's pretty fun. There are rumors that the cell may be used in the PlayStation 4. Which would make here's the kind of
Well,
cool
that
thing
makes
about
sense.
It makes sense because Sony and Toshiba and IBM and all that have put so much money into it, and especially Sony losing all this money on this system, that if they give you a better clock version, maybe more cores, whatever, for the next time around, people will already know how to program for the system. So finally, Sony will release a system that people already know how to program for at launch. It would be amazing if that happens. So that's pretty
We're
cool.
still a ways off, though, for that.
Yeah, the other
10-year life cycle.
the other bonus for that, and this is a good one, this is also good for gamers, is that if they are using the cell, that means production costs you figure would not be astronomical like they were this time around. So hopefully the system would come out for $300-400. We're going to assume about the $400 mark, and things hopefully will go a little bit smoother. The thing already exists. They didn't have the time, like the PS3 was delayed for so long basically because the cell wasn't quite ready and all that kind of stuff. The thing will already exist, so. That would be pretty cool.
And if I understand the cell correctly, this means that PS4 would be backwards compatible with the Wii, the 360, PS2.
Actually, considering that there's going to be so many cells in it, it will actually rip space and time apart, like King Ghidorah
Yes,
said.
it will go to 5D this time.
Exactly, we will be in 5D. We'll become Buckaroo Banzai.
No, but
if you have your own
that is
PS4.
another good point. If the cell is the basis of the thing, it should play all PS3 games.
Here's what I don't like about this plan: is it seems like every year, or not every year, every system, Sony ditches this and starts from fresh.
Yeah.
I like that because you don't have to worry about the cell in this case or whatever getting too smart. This could be the first.
You're
this is
afraid about Skynet.
It could become the Terminator.
You do it right. You start pumping out, and they always get to that thing where they're like, "Oh, we squeezed all the lemonade from it," and they toss it away before it can get from Wall-E to Terminator.
Well, remember last time with the PS2, they were talking about you could use the system to guide missiles.
Yeah,
I remember that.
So, and that fortunately didn't happen because the PS3 didn't use the Emotion Engine 2. Otherwise, the world may have already been
bad,
over.
man. Bad
now
news.
with Cell 2 or whatever it would be called. we may
Quad
see
core cells.
Yeah, if the Super Collider doesn't blow us up, maybe the Cell 2 will.
Yes.
Then the last couple bits of news, a couple more things. One is that Sony has announced that 12 new titles will be announced at TGS next week. 9 of them for the PS3, 3 for the PSP, and this is Sony first-party stuff, or second-party, whatever you want to include. But this is not third-party stuff, so we should see 9 new PS3 titles.
Ryan,
Fingers crossed
Probably-
on White Knight's Story.
Probably a lot of them will be PlayStation downloadable games,
Yeah.
PSN
True.
games. But
that's cool though.
there should be some cool stuff. And then lastly, Greg has a mustache.
Yep.
Yeah, the dirt stash. Yeah.
I shaved off my beard into a goatee into a mustache.
Yeah. So what? You give the full story for people that don't know about this.
Come on,
real fast.
Boogie Nights.
Well, you should be reading my blog. But yeah, GameScoop, I guess 4 weeks ago tomorrow, Ryan Geddes came back from Portland and he had this horrible picture on his desk of him with a beard. And I brought it into GameScoop and we mocked him. And Geddes bet me that I couldn't grow a beard for 3 weeks. And if I could, he would never take a photo of himself with a 3-week beard, 3-week year, whatever, beard again.
3-week-year-old.
And so I made it to the end, and then I put up a poll to see what people wanted me to shave it into. Everybody picked goatee, which was the boringest choice out of them all.
It was
So
Evil Greggy.
I kept it for a day. Now I'm to the disgusting mustache. And the best news is that I went the entire time really without, like I don't grow a good beard. Like, it was whatever. But I didn't have to go to any events. Now on the day where my facial hair looks the worst, I'm going to the Mirror's Edge event tonight.
Oh, very good.
I don't even know anybody there. I'm going to look like such
awesome.
an idiot.
That's gonna be awesome.
Hey, Ryan's
Ryan-
back.
Ryan
I noticed
joined
he's
us.
porn
Oh,
stash.
there it is.
You got
It's in his pocket.
you got everything you needed.
Yes.
Very
They
good.
wouldn't have even known I was gone if you didn't say anything, Greg.
Well, I made
Nice
fun of you a
job.
have
lot.
to.
You weren't
Yeah.
here to
We mocked you.
stop it.
Thanks a lot. Well, we'll see. I'll talk about this when we get there.
Very good.
Talk about you when I get there.
Yeah, You already talked about me.
Nah,
now
I
I'm going
really-
to
I
go
really
back and
didn't.
have to listen and hear what you said
Ryan,
about
are you
me.
going to survive TGS with 12 Sony games getting announced?
I'll figure it out.
Okay.
The last that anybody heard of Ryan Clements.
Yep. Never come back.
And now, another reading from the Book of Fracture with American history expert Colin Moriarty.
Character profile: Jet Brody. Born in southern Missouri in 2140, Jet Brody's father was killed during the crisis of 2145-46. He and his mother, a former mechanical engineer, traveled on their heavily armored houseboat, bartering his repair skills for supplies up and down the swollen Mississippi Sea. At the age of 9, marauders overrun the houseboat one night, plundering its supplies and setting it on fire. Despite fighting back as best he can, Jet is tossed into the deadly currents and left for dead. Never giving up, Jet washes up on the nearby shore of the Mississippi. He later settles at a small agricultural community and becomes an active member in its protection. While Atlantic Alliance troops led by Colonel Roy Lawrence come to liberate the community years later, Jet's life suddenly changes.
So now, Greg,
Yeah.
why don't you tell us what games are coming to the store this week?
Oh, I can do that easily because I have the official IGN list of upcoming PlayStation software on all 3 platforms by the IGN editors. I'm going to miss that song next week. PS3 got Silent Hill Homecoming. PS2 got Pipe, Mania, and Mortal Kombat Collection. PSP got Pipe, Mania, and Valhalla Knights 2.
Pick of the week's a little short here. Pick of the week! What games are hitting the PlayStation Network today?
Actually,
Blognet?
according to Zombie Blogneck, a large amount of it is demos. He moaned out to me because he's heading over to Japan as well.
Oh God, I'm going to Japan with Zombie Blog now.
Yes,
You got to pay the $15 or $25 fee to
stick him in
Yeah.
carriage. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Domo!
Yeah. He could be baggage. But supposedly on the PSN today will be demos for BioShock, Hell's Highway, Eternal Sonata, and NBA 2K9, as well as the Red Hot Chili Peppers Rock Band album.
As a demo for that, or that's just the whole album?
No, the whole album is going to be available, and the usual themes and videos that you find.
I do not like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm going to throw that out there. I don't care if I get hate mail. That guy's voice gets under my skin and annoys the
That guy,
hell out
you
of
mean
me.
That's how I
Anthony
feel about
Kiedis?
Billy Corgan. So,
Yes. Oh, man.
so back to pick of the week. Is there really anything good here that's worthy of standing out? Let me look at this list again. Let me take a look at this thing.
Sam,
Can we
Let's
take a
see.
mulligan on this one?
Sam always seems to like Valhalla Knights 2. I mean,
What?
a lot of people talk that up.
A mulligan? You know, it's a golf.
Talk about it. I don't know. What do we care? It's out.
Yeah, I don't know. Jeff has played it much more than I have. I just wasn't
Valhalla
particularly
Knights.
impressed with
I
what
got
I
it.
saw.
I got it. If don't play any of the games that hit the retail unless you got a bunch of money, go and buy Burnout on PSN.
There you go.
There you go.
Nice.
Play Burnout.
Ding, ding, ding.
Because there's trophies.
There's trophies.
Speaking
Now.
of which,
They came out.
trophies.
Great
That
value
just
for your
leads
money.
us into just the tip.
Just the tip.
Just the tip.
Just the tip.
Do we have any tips? For
Yeah, freaking rent Burnout. They're easy trophies to get.
Yeah.
It's like drive for 40 miles or something. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they're all really self-explanatory. One of them is here's an easy tip. Is one of them is to stay on your bike for a full 24-hour day-night cycle. If you go to the options, you can change the amount of time that it takes to go through the day-night cycle. By default, I believe it's on 48 minutes. You can change it to 24 minutes and cut your time in half like that.
Is it really 48 minutes?
Yeah, the first default, at least on my game,
Yeah.
default it was 48 minutes, and then you can
Like,
put
you
it. The lowest is 24.
I did it. What I did though is I got on the bike and just drove around and did the other bike trophies until that other one unlocked, and then I went and did my thing. So,
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's a cakewalk.
Yeah,
Fun game.
yeah, very fun game.
Good times.
Go get it. Play the game.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And now, another reading from the Fracture Review Guide with American history expert Colin Moriarty.
Character profile, Colonel Roy Lawrence. Born in Washington, D.C. in 2120, Roy Lawrence heard the military call early in life. Faking a set of security papers, he enlisted in the military at age 16, quickly distinguishing himself. He receives a battlefield commission at the age of 30. Lawrence personally leads the northern flank, and in 2153, already several years into the campaign, he and his forces finally reach St. Louis. Battered and bruised from fighting with countless militias and gangs unwilling to give up their regional powers, Lawrence and his men attempt to secure an agricultural compound on the outskirts of the city, only to find themselves outmatched and pinned down. No one is more surprised than Lawrence when a 13-year-old boy calmly emerges from the smoking debris, holding a battered federal-issue assault rifle and a remote trigger for explosives pasted all around the compound. Hastily, a truce is declared as Lawrence convinces the boy that he is there to protect the community. The boy surrenders and his comrades follow. Unmarried and childless, Major Lawrence takes the young boy, whose name he learns is Jet Brody, back to the East Coast with him, eventually enrolling him in a military prep school at the boy's request. Upon graduation, Brody immediately enlists, serving directly under his adoptive father.
All right, it's time for topic of the week.
Week of topic.
What?
Backwards
The mustache is changing you?
I was gonna say something bad there. but I'm
Rover did not like that one.
Week
No.
of topic.
I was going to say something bad. It's the topic of the week. This week's biggest news since the end of last week, basically, is Little Big Planet beta. Everybody's going crazy about it, so we're going to talk about this a little bit. Hopefully, I was sending out all the beta keys to people that send in emails, whatever. Hopefully, a lot of you guys on the insider message boards have gotten keys. If you don't, go find the thread that's on there. It's got 2,000 posts. and then I will try to hook you guys up.
How many more you got left?
Some, not a ton.
Yeah.
So I'm done sending out the emails because I don't have very many left, and I'm trying to just give the last few away to insider readers. And when I can, I'm sending them out there. But yeah, anyway.
Has it been tough?
Huh?
Has it been tough?
Yeah, how much of a pain in the ass has this been for you?
It's been a giant pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 2 solid days of nothing but posting codes and sending to people. And all
Guys,
that.
let's give Roper a round of applause.
No, don't do that.
Yep.
So
For sending out those codes.
anyway, so the good news is that we've had a lot of people. I was playing with Jeff Ramsaroop last night and Velo Zombie.
Yeah.
Or I guess before I left work yesterday, we played a couple levels together, so that was good fun.
Ramsarup's like center of the earth.
Yeah, that
level
was awesome. Yeah, Jeff, you did a good job on that one. And yeah, I don't remember it says something from like Journey to the Center of the Earth. I forget if that's the level name or if that's his description, but it's one of those. But go find him on your thing and then play that level. It's rad. It's
Spiral
very hard.
of Flaming Death.
Yeah, that might be what it's called. But I kept dying. But you know what's really cool about that is, so I didn't have a headset on, and Jeff didn't have a headset on, and I don't think Velo was talking at all. But what's pretty cool is since you have control over your arms in the game, you can use it to communicate pretty well. So like if we were there and there's like platforms that were moving and like I wanted him to go first, I would just use my arm and point at it, you know, and that'd be like go. Or if like something was happening poorly, I'd put my arms down and like make a sad face, whatever. You can do a whole lot of communication with the game without actually talking at all and just using like your little dude's emotions and all that kind of stuff, which is pretty rad. So hopefully that will help people that don't have don't want to type or whatever.
Well,
So
that was actually key with some of the stuff that you guys were doing, because there were one section where I guess like you were stuck.
Yeah.
And it was like, there's no way that you can type, because you can actually see Ramsaroop like trying to type something. I was like, dude, the world is spinning upside down, and if you let go to try and type this, you're gonna die. Don't even try it. Let it go.
It's always so funny when you see someone playing and they're like really into it. Their character's like flying around, getting headshots, and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, what's your name?" They like stop, and it's a 5-minute pause, and then Brian.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And then they just keep going.
Yeah, but so Jeff, you haven't played too much. I'm understanding, but you other two guys and me myself have played a fair bit of the user created levels. What's some of the cool stuff you guys have seen?
I like them. Oh, I liked your Rickroll level.
That was hilarious.
I didn't get to play it, but that was pretty awesome. Whoever did that, that was a great idea for one.
Yeah.
I played a Super Mario Brothers one. It was real rough, but it was fun to do. They had a bunch of creative characters and stuff walking around. It was neat.
I like the Dino Land, whatever that one's called. You start the level off, and it's like welcome to Dinosaur Land or whatever, and you go along, and you're like, where are the dinosaurs at? And then 2 giant mosquitoes fall out of the sky on you. And then there's like, it's like a giant T-Rex, or I think you ride it at some point. It's pretty awesome. You know what's pretty cool, though, is I think if you make one of these levels, and then you go in there and you play it, you can kind of see things that you might not think about while you're doing it that kind of break it or whatever. Like you'll get stuck in a little crevice or whatever. Or this jump isn't quite right and you got to go back and tweak it. I think it gives a lot of people a really good insight into how much fine-tuning and tweaking that people, that developers have to do on these giant games. I mean, think about Grand Theft Auto, how much tweaking was done at the last second. It gives people an idea about how much stuff you have to go in there, and you have to look at every little tiny thing, because one little piece of the level that you can't quite get out of a gap or it's annoying breaks the whole experience, And, I'm hoping that this will kind of give people an insight as to how much work goes into the last, month in some of these games or whatever. People are saying, hey, it's only a month left to be perfect now. No, the last month is the most important part of any game, and you will see that when you're making some of these levels, because I've seen it in some of the ones I'm playing.
Yeah, have you started creating?
Not yet. I did. I messed around with some test stuff, but I haven't actually uploaded any levels yet. Mm-hmm. Hoping I can do that in the next day or two. I'm having some sort of ideas, but nothing concrete yet. But my first test, I think, Greg, I showed you this one, where I had like some planks of wood or whatever, and you walk in the level. I hadn't messed with any triggers yet, and you basically knock over the planks of wood like dominoes. Then they would hit this other plank, and this giant boulder thing, or a giant barrel would roll off of this one plank. And so basically you come in, you hit one plank, and then stand on one end of a catapult. And then all the planks would fall like dominoes, and then this barrel would roll off the top of the last plank, and then hit your catapult and throw you in the air.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, just a little physics test I was trying, and it worked, but it wasn't very fun, so I kind of scrapped that. But it worked. I mean, it's cool.
It wasn't fun.
Yeah, but like kind of like back to your point, like one of the things that I was checking out when you were playing yesterday was like that wipeout level, which is exactly kind of like what you were talking about, where you really have to fine tune things, because the level was a lot of you get on this, what was it, a rocket sled or like a
it looked like a wipeout.
It looked like a wipeout ship, but you went around this basic loop the loop, and if your sled basically went off the track by a little bit, all of a sudden you'd spin out, you'd spiral, the sled would cartwheel. At one point, it shattered.
Yeah, it broke apart. There's one level that somebody made it's a roller coaster, and it starts out where there's a giant block of it's a circle block of wood, and there's a thing in the middle that you can hold, and then there's I think
that's where it spins.
Yeah,
that one's cool.
Yeah, there's like four rocket boosters on the thing, and so when you grab onto it, the rockets trigger and make the wheels spin. You're holding onto it, and it goes to the right hand side level, goes off a jump, and then there's a loop that it's like a half loop. It's supposed to go up, and then it shoots you back around to the left. You get to the exit. But I know I played that with my wife once, and it didn't work. It like failed on us like twice. And then I played it the first time yesterday, it didn't make it, and then finally the third time it made it. And it shows you that if you rely too much on physics in this game and probably a lot of other ones, you can't quite, it's not going to be exactly the same thing every time, and things will break. But it's kind of funny. Man, I was playing with when I was playing with Jeff Ram's group last night. There was one where there was just two rocket cars, which were basically looked like brooms with rockets with wheels on them, and so we had problems getting it to kind of go. But anyway, we eventually both get on the same one. And it just shoots you to the right-hand side of the level, and there's not really anything going on the level. Then at the end, right, there's the little platform you get on to end the level, and the right of that was just a giant wall. And so we're riding, and there's nothing really going on for like 10 seconds or whatever, and we're just passing by. The ground's totally flat. And so Jeff Ram's group jumps off the front of the thing right before we get to the wall, and the car basically just piled him into the wall. If it was real, he would not exist anymore. That was pretty damn funny.
I wish there was a replay option of some kind. Then,
if there was replay, it would be awesome.
Yeah,
maybe for the sequel.
Well, they could always add that in as a downloadable patch, maybe.
Very true. Ryan, what have you seen that's been cool in there?
There was one level that I played. I forgot the title, but it was something along the lines of the 3 elemental sack boys or something like that. Did either of you guys see
I
that?
haven't seen that one.
No, the level was fair. It was a solid experience. There was nothing too fancy or incredible with the gameplay, but it was one of the first levels I saw where the creator was actually trying to tell a little story during the course of the level.
Yeah.
And I had not run into that yet with any of the levels, and it was about how these 3 elemental spirits were like, each of their elementally themed areas were under attack by monsters, and you had to like go and do things in each area. And that was cool. I respected that, even though it was, just reasonable construction. It wasn't anything special.
Yeah. Ramsrup and I, when we were playing yesterday, we found a level that was inspired by Shadow of the Colossus. One of the Parsons winner made a giant level, right? A giant like creature, whatever. This one we were playing was like when you go after, I think the first or second boss in the game, in actual Shadow of the Colossus.
Spoilers.
You go and there's like a hill and you climb up and teaches you basically the platforming stuff. I think it's the first boss in the game, and so it's sort of like that. You start off and you climb up a hill and there's like some fire pits or whatever, and it's a little tricky. And then you come to where there's a long gap, and there's a horse there. And he goes, I'm aggro or whatever. And so you get on the aggro, and he shoots. He's a little rocket horse, basically.
He's a rocket horse.
He shoots from the left-hand side to the right-hand side of this area, this section of level, and then he knocks you off. And then you keep going through the next little area, and then you find him again. Right? There's another aggro over there, and you ride him, and then he's supposed to. I think what was supposed to happen was he was supposed to make a jump. But it was a giant gap, and there's spikes at the bottom. But he didn't quite make the jump, or we fell off or something and didn't make it. And then after that happened, we couldn't pass the level anymore because the horse was already taken, and it wasn't respawning. And it was like, well, we can't do anything, so we just had to quit out. So
you didn't see what it was at the end, then?
I didn't see what was at the end. I'm going to have to go back and play that one because the beginning of it was pretty cool.
It'd be great if there was this incredibly intricate Colossus constructed at the end.
There could be, but
kind of like that Parsons thing. I mean, it's kind of funny because I've been so busy like doing a lot of the other games and prepping for the basketball, I'm kind of like watching you guys play kind of from a distance and going like, this game's really cool. I just need some time to play it. The Parsons level is really cool. I mean, like I think the one that they put up was like at least a good.
Come on,
I mean, it was 6 or 7 minutes of just like random complex like sections and platforming elements and all this other stuff. I mean,
Some of the stuff they thought of, like having the still images rotating on a covered wheel, so that it looks like an animation. Like they had a little cutout, and so every time an image would go along the wheel, you would only see that one image, and so the images would flash, and it would create like an animation, even though you can't actually bring in animations. Like that stuff's really creative.
Yeah.
There's no way I would have ever thought of that, and I not heard of it.
Yeah. Anything else, you guys? Anything else cool you've seen in the game? Ryan, is that story level the best level that you've seen so far?
No, because I haven't really played any of the awesome, incredible levels yet. I've just been most of the levels I've seen have not been very impressive. Like that one I told you guys about where it was just a bunch of like girls on fire because he's like, this is what romance is like. Oh, God. And it just shows all these people on fire. And I was like, this person has some emotional issues.
You know what I like so far about playing it is because I get, the serious, like really well-built stuff. I get that from the single-player game itself. I like seeing the totally random stuff that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense or it's just completely off the wall. There's one that's called Houston, We Have a Problem.
Yeah, that one's
where
cool.
You come into the level and there's a huge rocket and there's like this little lift elevator that comes up and down or this little platform in case you just want to run up. But it takes you to the top of the rocket. And then you jump into the little command seat or whatever, and there's a switch, and you pull the switch, and the rocket takes off. And the rocket, I mean, if your Sackboy is say a couple feet tall, the rocket's probably 200 or 300 feet tall. It's huge, right? So it takes off and flies straight up and starts curving to the right, and then the background changes to be space, which is pretty rad. So it looks like you're flying through space, and then it crash lands. And you get thrown out, and then like you get on a little buggy, and it takes you over like the stuff that's supposed to simulate the moon or whatever. And then there's like these, and then you find this giant alien, and he's like, "Oh, aliens better run." Then there's like this little planet, and he made a little alien dude out of wood or whatever, and and they just keep spawning them, and they're electrified. So basically, they're trying to hit you, sort of, and you just escape from the aliens, and then you get back into another rocket, and it takes you back down to Earth, and then you're, that's the end of the level.
That's cool.
But
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I mean, it's not the most well constructed thing of all time, but it's pretty funny and it's pretty out there. And I
want to get into the little command seat with my Sackboy. Mm-hmm. That is pretty funny.
It's pretty good. All right. Well, that's pretty cool. I'm having a good time with the beta so far. Hopefully a lot of you guys are. It goes until, a week from Saturday, I believe?
Yeah, October 11th, is
yeah,
that right?
I think that sounds
about right.
I thought it was
around the 10th or 11th, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. So we have another week plus to play the game.
You're done, Ryan. It's over.
Oh.
That's it. I'm done. No more.
No more Sackboy for you.
Until I get the game.
Well.
And now, another reading from the Fracture Review Guide with American history expert Colin Moriarty.
Character profile, Mariko Tokuyama. Mariko arrives in Northern California at the age of 5, accompanying her parents from Japan. A gifted and bright youngster, her playground was her parents' workplace, Roken Labs, a Japanese genetic pharmaceutical conglomerate. Its walls provide Mariko with the inspiration to follow her keen interests in science. One of the earliest evolutionary improvements gifted to many children of the Pacific Bloc is the rudimentary subsonic communication ability. However, on a trip to the National Zoo in Washington, D.C., Mariko discovers her abilities are far more advanced, and that she is able to affect the animals at the zoo. Her uncle, a trainer for specimens on loan from the Tokyo Zoo, notices the anomaly and works with the terrified Mariko, teaching her to control and refine her unique ability. With the permission of her parents, Mariko spends summers with her uncle, intensifying her growing passion for animals and the engaging scientific field of subsonic communication. Mariko elects to remain in America to further her education in the sciences, believing that if she can find the frequencies used by animals to communicate with each other, then surely the people of the East and the West can learn to communicate and coexist in peace. This idealism leads her to work in a university as the head of subsonic interspecies communication research. Only later does she discover the project's true purpose, to develop a genetic superweapon capable of carrying out a deadly first strike against a distant enemy.
Time for some reader mail.
Reader mail!
Milk.
Reader mail.
Chain milk.
Mailstrom.
Mail
Male,
man.
female!
Mailbag.
Here's some mail. All right, so as a quick note on this one, we had a lot of emails going to Beyond or whatever about the Little Big Planet beta.
Stop sending them.
Yeah, stop sending them.
Please.
That's over. That's fine. We're not getting too many more, I don't think. But anyway, so we're a little short on email this week, but we got some really good questions here. So let's get into this. Pseudo Prime 1979 writes and he says, "My fiance is a returning gamer who loves his Wii," which I'm not sure what he's referring to there, but says, "but largely is scared of my PS3. I think I'm scarred by reading.
You're scarred?
She says she's loving old school 2D platformers, preferring Super Paper Mario to Mario Galaxy. Will Little Big Planet be accessible for her, or is it too hardcore to have casual appeal?" think if any of you guys that have played the beta will know that it definitely has casual appeal. My wife and I play the Lego Star Wars, Lego Indiana Jones games, and she is a big fan of what we have played with Little Big Planet so far. So
I had friends in town last week, and on Saturday we just sat around and played, and it was me and this one guy who doesn't play video games at all, and he enjoyed it. And we figure I just started the beta, and so all it was tutorial on how to jump and how to do this and stuff, and we had fun just running around.
Yeah, so most definitely, if it's actually a great game for new gamers because really you only have 2 buttons too. You can jump and grab.
Yeah.
So there's not overly complex controls. It's really easy to get into. Big Boss X Hunter says, what is the difference between 1080p, 1080i, 720p, and 720i? There is no 720i. That doesn't exist. So
Big Boss.
Oh, wow.
One down.
The number there is the vertical resolution. It's the up and down pixels, right? So 1080p is the resolution is 1920 pixels across, and then 1080 pixels up and down. 720 is 1280 across, and then 720 down. The INP means progressive or interlaced. So if you have an interlaced signal, it means for every frame that you get 2 fields. So first it'll draw all of the odd numbers, I think, and then next it'll draw all of the even number frames. And if you have a progressive signal, it draws the entire picture all at one time. So it's more like a movie. It's cleaner. You don't get tearing, you don't get blurring, things like that.
Stuff like that.
Generally speaking, so 1080p is the best. Clearly, most resolution's progressive. There's kind of arguments about whether 1080i or 720p is better. With 720p, it's progressive, so you get the full frame stuff. It looks nicer, it's smoother. But 1080i has more resolution. I think almost every, I could be wrong on this, but I think almost every cable channel these days is broadcasting in 1080i. So that's pretty much what you get there. But as you know, most games are 720p. So, but both look good. Red Moon John says, when will Team Eco announce the next game? Maybe at TGS? Also, have we heard about their game at all and can't talk about it at this time? Thanks and beyond.
Beyond.
We don't know anything about it. So, and we don't know if it's going to be at TGS. I think not, though.
I think not, but there's always a chance.
There's a chance. But
I'll say it will be.
All right.
Always someone on this show will be
Aren't you
right.
just being
Just
a contrarian?
slap my knee and call me Greg.
Okay.
That was,
Hi, Greg.
That was not what I meant at all.
That's exactly what you
And
said.
That's what you said.
That was my
We're very
kind of this
literal
area.
here.
Yeah,
here.
well, you're covering one knee with your foot and the other one had your hand out. There you go. Hi, Greg.
There you go.
Loved it.
So that means that you're nothing again.
No, I
no.
didn't give him Greg rights.
Oh, you
I
didn't
just called
sign
him
off.
Greg.
That's right.
Yeah.
The contract was not signed.
Yeah. Argent Gamer 123 says, I gather that you guys have recently played Resistance 2.
1, 2.
Jeff played it
Yes.
most recently. In a video, we saw that there was only 7 to 8 weapons available, with many of them quite generic. Do you know if they were planning to add more weapons than just the 7 to 8?
We actually, most likely yes. The sections that we were shown were very specific. I mean, there was the initial training level in Iceland. There was the Oric, California level. The co-op levels were kind of spawning out. But we were also told that regardless of the levels or the weapons that you saw within the co-op mission, there were also hidden weapons that you had to unlock when you got to a certain level or you did certain things based off of your class and everything else. So there are supposedly a lot of other weapons in the game that are hidden that we haven't been shown, and supposedly also other weapons within the single-player game that we didn't obviously see because we couldn't play a section of the game.
Right.
They also added pigeons.
Yes.
With
Pro-pixel leatherization diffusion. Major part of the game. But yeah, there are supposed to be a number of unlockable things, and most likely a certain section of those are going to be weapons.
Very good. HP Guy at 311 says, can you please start including load times in all of your reviews? It will probably take an extra minute or so for you to include how long the game takes to load, but I don't think it will cause you a heart attack or anything. Games like MLB 08 The Show have such random load times, yet it wasn't included in the review. Games like Call of Duty 4 and Uncharted load like all games should. Why do you ignore load times in reviews? Can you be a little more thorough in your reviews? Thanks. So,
what does he mean loads like all games should? Like
I don't
they're
know.
good or?
I mean, Uncharted is basically streaming the whole time.
Yeah, I was
so,
gonna say I don't know.
Yeah. So now here's the thing. A lot of the games that we review are the final code, but it's burned to a disc because they haven't come off the assembly line when they give them to us yet. So it's the final version of the game. It's exactly what you're playing in the store, except that it's on a burned DVD versus the actual in-store disc. So it's possible that because of the different disc types, there could be a slight change in load times. It's never drastic. It's always going to be roughly the same. But we don't want to sit there and go, load times are 5 seconds, and then when you get the game, they're 6 seconds or they're 4 seconds or whatever, or 7 seconds. generally speaking, if the game has out of the ordinary load times, like if Uncharted, the whole game is streaming, that will probably get mentioned in the review. If the load times are 5 minutes per level, we are going to mention that because it's going to be terrible. So I know, Jeff, in the Metal Gear Solid review, you mentioned that it has to install before each thing, and then besides that, there's not really a whole lot of loading. So I mean, if it's loading out of the ordinary, then we're going to tell you that there's loading problems or whatever else. And if it's normal run-of-the-mill stuff where it takes 10 seconds to load a level or 15,
Yeah, or if there's something like an install where it's like, okay, you have to install this, or like you have to install the game, but that is supposed to cut down on the load times, and then it doesn't.
Yeah, basically we mention things in reviews that are significant towards how the game is played. So if we're playing a racing game and it has normal engine sounds and there's nothing out of the ordinary, do we need to say they sound like cars? It's okay. If a game, if a game has okay graphics, we might say, it looks all right, whatever. But do we need to tell you that the character's shirt looks okay? It's sort of like we don't want to write 15-page reviews and tell you every single last detail about it. So if things are out of the ordinary with regards to the loads, we will point them out, and if they're just sort of normal, we don't. Now, the second part to this is that over on the Insider guys, they do head-to-heads, and they will tell you exactly what the load time differences between certain games are. So that is a good way for you to tell how long, even if you're only interested in the PS3 version of the game, how long the loads are going to be. They'll tell you over there. They time it. They do all those sorts of things. So there's your better in-depth stuff.
I almost always talk about the load times, especially if they're like you said, important or critical to the experience.
Yeah.
And so I'm surprised he thinks we don't really touch on that.
Yeah. The other thing too is when we play games, we try to play them at. I mean, it's almost impossible because some of the stuff we play at work, and we're getting phone calls and it's messages or whatever. But as much as possible, we want it to be like you guys are going to play when you get it at home. So you're sitting on your couch, you just play the game, and that's it. And I don't want to sit there with a stopwatch and every single time a level loads, click it, and you're like, that takes you out of the experience. And
that's why I think the hardest question for us to answer as reviewers is how long is this game?
Yeah,
because one of those things where I'm like, it took me 4 days to play it, but I had to answer a million emails, and Dunham needed this. We did a top 10 list, and you got to ballpark everything because you're not sure.
The mustache.
Yeah, the mustache is what does it.
Unless you specifically time exactly when you sit down and start, and then stop whenever you get interrupted, then restart it again. And
seems like a lot of work.
It's not going to happen for one.
It's really hard to do that.
And also, the in-game clock is almost never accurate for us because we often have to walk away from the desk for a long period of time.
The thing with the in-game clocks too is something I hate. I wish it would be consistent across all games. Is some games will count it while the game is on. So if you pause, it'll count that you're. So if I pause and go eat dinner and then I come back, there was an hour, half an hour, whatever.
Gone.
And some games will only count while you are alive and not paused, and not even like a map screen or whatever. And sometimes it even resets when you die. Mm-hmm. And then if you load your game, if I'm playing GTA and I go to the other side of the city and I die, and then I reload now that part, so I don't have to drive that again. Now that part's gone, and So
yeah, the other part of it is that there are a number of times where developers will say, "Oh, this is a 10 to 12-hour game," or "This is whatever," and depending upon what your skill level or comfort is with a certain kind of game, you might be fine with it and fly through it, not have any single problem with it. So it's like, wait a second.
The developers almost always tell you the highest.
Yeah, the highest number. So they'll go it's a 15, 20-hour game, and you can get through it in 10 hours. You're like, well, where's the other half of the game? What's going on?
Moving on, Sean9986 says, Jeff, you obviously didn't find Silent Hill scary, but do you think there will ever be a game that is scary this generation? Dead Space, possibly?
Yeah, I didn't find Silent Hill scary at all, in the slightest.
It's because your heart is as black as stone.
Yes, it is. I don't know. The thing is that one of the biggest issues for me is that Silent Hill by itself was a series designed around psychological terror in many ways. You are an ordinary person thrown into an extraordinary situation with paranormal elements. And the fact that you've got a soldier in there doesn't necessarily mean that, it's going to be lacking in those scares. But the thing of feeling overwhelmed isn't there. You're not like some random Joe thrown off the street and going like, okay, here's a monster and you have to pick up a gun. You maybe have never even seen a gun. Go ahead and shoot somebody. Like, this guy's gone through war, so he's a lot more physically capable than these guys, which doesn't necessarily add that everyman experience in, so you don't have the same kind of experience.
Right.
which automatically rips out a serious chunk of the psychological fear that you connect with, because most people wouldn't necessarily go, oh yeah, I know exactly how to aim at something and blow something away, unless they've picked up a gun and done it, or picked up a knife or a piece of wood and slammed it through somebody's skull. Anyway.
Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan. Anyway,
How many homeless guys outside Denny's have to die for you to get happy?
Wow.
Damn you. To get back to the other part that he was mentioning, it's possible that there will be a game within this generation that will be truly scary. I think that part of it is more creepy, or being able to time your jumps well. I mean, for instance, Siren had a lot of creepy or disturbing moments, like moments where as you were like the little girl in the hospital, you were completely defenseless, you couldn't pick up a weapon, and all of the Shibito were running around, which meant that any single time that they saw you, you pretty much had to try to run away, but most of the times you weren't fast enough, they'd catch you, you'd automatically die, game over. And so because you were that helpless, that really added a sense of dread, because you couldn't really do anything. Games like Dead Space, on the other hand, because a large amount of it is you're kind of walking through an abattoir, because the ship is so covered in gore and blood and guts, you kind of get used to the sight. There's still some things that you look at and you're like, that is really, really messed up, but you're not scared by it. The scare comes when something that you think is already dead hops back up right in your face, and you go, Jesus, like, I thought that thing was already dead, or I thought I shot something, and you realize you shot the monster next to it. The one that was lying down in wait for you hadn't decided to get up until you turned your back, and then it jumped for you. And that's where you actually get well-timed scares or jumps. It's not necessarily going to be fully scary, but it's going to be measured jumps that kind of get you on edge and run that shiver down your spine.
Yeah. So you're saying whenever Ghostbusters gets released, that's the next scary game?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. To see Harold Ramis and his squeezed into his suit again.
I always thought the Half-Life games are actually really frightening in certain sections of them, like just because of the way that they've implemented their atmosphere and the tension of the game so well. Some of the sections where you have head crab zombies in the sewers and stuff, and it's totally dark.
You can't shoot them, and they're always coming at you.
Yeah, I found that like scary. If you play at night by yourself, those can be very tense moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
WKD Injection writes in and says, will you guys do an official review of PlayStation Home? No. I don't think that we're going to. That's
we've like reviewed it already, because of all the times we've covered it.
TBD on that one. We may end up doing it, but I'm going to say very likely no.
Not really a game.
It's not a game.
It's an experience, supposedly.
I don't know. Anyway,
no, honestly, it's like, we keep seeing like glimpses of it, but it's like, okay.
Yeah, okay, but even when it comes out, so here's the thing. First off, is the game Home is going to launch in beta, and they're pulling the Google approach, where Google, I think Gmail is still in beta, and it's like, well, that thing's been out for 3, 4 years, 5 years, whatever, and it's still in beta. It's just because and that's Sony's stance on this one, is they're going to launch it as a beta, and it's going to be in beta for a long time, and it's because they're going to be constantly add stuff, and they want people to realize that it's not done when it comes out, that they're going to be constantly expanding upon it or whatever, which I think, it's kind of a cool approach. So first off, we never review betas, obviously, and being that this is not really a game.
Well, that's why I was calling it an experience, because it's like, you go in, and then you talk to other people, and you do all these things in virtual spaces.
No one talked to me at 5'9".
You launch yourself into other games, and it's not really a
all the arcade cabinets would take it.
And you gather around bubble machines and dance for 4 hours.
Yeah, I mean, you experience it.
When we are allowed to talk about it a little more, a couple of us here are in the beta, but we're not really supposed to be talking about what's in there. Greg,
head grabber zombies.
Yeah, but zombies are not.
That'd be awesome. God, I hope they had that.
Also, I wonder if anybody found the cemetery in Home yet. But anyway, but we will definitely give our impressions on it, but we're not going to assign a score to it. Probably not. Anyway, Deviant Boy writes in with the last question of the day. Says, could you go around the table and have all the editors state the following? My name is blank. Fill in your name. My favorite gaming genres are blank. Fill in the genres. My least favorite genres are blank. And my favorite game of all time is blank. Beyond. Beyond is not in quotes, but you can say it anyway.
Okay.
Ryan, let's start with you.
My name is blank.
My name is Ryan. My favorite gaming genres are RPGs, action games, and fighting games and music games. That's a lot.
So all of them.
My least favorite, or was it worst?
No, my least favorite.
My least favorite gaming genres are sports games and extremely technical simulation racers. I do like arcade racers. And my favorite game of all time is Final Fantasy VII. I'll throw that out there. I don't know. That changes a lot. And
That was it, and beyond.
beyond.
Greg?
My name is Mustached Greg. My favorite genre is the action-adventure genre with a good story. My least favorite would be fishing. My favorite game of all time is Metal Gear Solid 4, or Metal Gear Solid, sorry, Beyond.
You wrote it down. That's totally
I
cheating.
did.
that
Yeah.
is cheating.
Jeff?
My name's Jeff, and I'm a gamer. My favorite game genres are just about anything, although I do tend to play a lot of RPGs, action games, sports, and shooters. My least favorite genre are things that are too goddamn cutesy.
Oh.
I love those
Kid
games.
games are things that seem way too... They just irritate me. And my favorite game kind of rotates between a couple different things, but I'm going to throw out XCOM right for now.
We've
That's a
been
good
talking
pick.
about XCOM
As-
for a
as-
little. Yeah.
And?
Beyond!
Okay, and me last. My name is Chris. My favorite gaming genres are... I'm going to go with... what do I go with today? Action, adventure,
Oh, yeah.
and racing games. I love racers. My least favorite genres are... I'm going to go with straight up old school Japanese RPGs. Those are... I appreciate them, but they're... I can't do that for me. And I don't know what other least favorite genres would be. Anyway, and my favorite game of all time is the original Sid Meier's Pirates.
I knew that one. Before
we be taking
Before
this
we
vessel out.
go on, I just have to give a quick shout out. Is that all right with you
Yeah,
guys?
absolutely.
During the Valkyria Chronicles event, I ran into a couple dudes who were, I guess, either interns or temps at Sega.
Yeah.
They were just kind of helping out and working there. And they went up to me and they introduced themselves. The one guy did anyway, and I met the other guy later. Really nice guys, intense Beyond listeners, so I have to give them a big Beyond and shout out to James and Derek from Sega. I don't know their last names because they didn't tell me.
I think the last names are Sega.
Yeah.
Yeah.
James Sega.
James
Well,
Sega
actually-
and Derek Sega.
To piggyback on that, I'm going to give a shout out to my boys Moyes from Boston and Mason from Vegas. I told them I was going to give them a shout out
Nice.
last week when I got on, but time didn't.
I'm giving a shout out to Sackboy.
Sackboy,
What up?
in the house.
I'm gonna give
415, yo.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Bruce. I gave him a mustache ride last night.
What?
That was
That
really
could be a red zone
disturbing.
violation on that one.
Wow. If we don't explain that, maybe it'll
Yeah.
get by. All right.
What up, Moyes and Mason?
All right.
Wow.
I know the answer to this one, but I like to hear it every week. Greg, what is going on with the NCAA tournament?
I finally advanced it. Jeff and I have still been too busy to play, so we're still simulating games. But when we get to playing the remaining two readers who've made it through this process, we will actually play those games.
Let's give a shout out to the two guys that are still in this
It's
catastrophe.
6 and Picks and Rolls Royce 5.
There you go. So beyond to you guys.
Beyond.
All right, PSN hit of the week. Jeff, you have a story here
Yes.
that you would like to share.
Yes,
Be nice.
I do.
First off, be nice to this guy.
No, I am.
But he must realize what's happening here and
Yes.
then be made hit of the week.
So this is a very special hit of the week. A few episodes ago, we actually mentioned a certain reader
I want
called.
to say this was like 10 episodes ago.
Yeah, it
probably.
was about 10 or
It was
so.
a little while ago, but
Yeah.
Not 10
But-
episodes.
But
it was a little while.
But somebody wrote in from a small school known as Cabrini College, Division II
Oh,
men's
yes,
basketball.
yes, I remember now.
His name was Lil Baller, as he called himself.
Lil
and
Baller.
he
Lil
mentioned
Baller.
that during this season, this upcoming season, he was going to write Beyond on his sneakers.
Beyond?
Because he is, I believe, the starting point guard for their basketball team. Now, he also wound up writing into us this past week with essentially a Stan-like letter mentioning how
Oh, God.
he'd been writing for the past 5 weeks and we hadn't answered his question.
Dear Beyond, I've been running.
And
You still ain't called.
he just wanted to let us know that he really dug the show, but he just wanted to hope that we would answer his question about whether or not we'd heard anything on a new Heavenly Sword game, which, of course, we
have
haven't.
not.
So, because of that, and because of the long paragraph that he wound up writing, and he felt Stan-like, I thought that it was only appropriate that we made Lil Baller, his PSN name is Lilbalar, the hit of the week.
So there's only one L in the middle. Lilbalar.
Yes, Lilbalar. Now, this hit of the week also comes with a condition for Lil Baller, and since he's listening, I hope that he takes
up,
this.
yo.
Yeah, he balls this up. As the season starts, we want updates. Because since you've been writing in for the past 5 weeks and we haven't gotten to your question, and now that we have, we want updates on how the season's going for your school at Cabrini College, especially since you're the starting point guard. We want updates, we want stats, we want scores, we want something. And we want to see pictures of the Beyond on the sneaks.
And here's what we'll do is we'll tie in your updates with Ryan's tournament winners.
Yes.
So Jeff can do the update on there since you're handling this part. But we will announce how the school is doing at the end of every show. So assuming that we get updates from Lil Baller.
Well, real quick as well. Also, grabbing back into the Beyond Past vehicles. We got SummerSlam on DVD in the office finally.
Yes.
And I have a high-res capture of the Podcast Beyond's colleague sign. So that will be, Ryan, don't let me forget, we'll put this in the article.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seeing as how last week I said, let's put a dead space in there, and then I went home and never told Ryan.
Let's get the official hit confirmed.
I actually already did, but PSN hit confirmed again.
And just to also throw one last connection back to a previous week's submission, remember how we had that kid that wrote in that he wrote comments in on the John Dunn essay? We got an email back from his teacher.
So here it is. Okay, wait. Let me tell this story real fast. So a couple weeks ago or I guess it was 2 shows ago. 3 shows. Anyway, a couple of shows ago, we got a guy who wrote in, said
I thought it was last week's.
Maybe it was last week's show.
I think it was last week, yeah.
My brain is totally gone. So he writes in, he says he was writing a paper on John Donne, whatever.
John Donne.
Yeah, John Donne, and for poetry, but he was listening to Beyond at the same time.
Yep.
Wrote the paper, made a bunch of Freudian slips, put like Ryan Clemence's poem of blah, 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 right? Had all these things in there. Goes with the hands the paper and doesn't proofread it. Gets it back. Teacher said, come see me. Goes up. Teacher says, don't listen to podcasts at the same time or I'm going to floor-adore you. He says he has mad respect for his teacher. We said, this story sounds great, but we can't, but we're not sure if it's real. So if the teacher's listening, go ahead and write in. Apparently, and here's where I'm coming in on this one, the guy says that he wrote in, right? He says, floor-door confirmed. Floor-door confirmation was the name of the email. Wrote in and says, yes, I am this teacher. And then, this is actually true. He shouldn't have been reading the paper or whatever else. Here's my thing. The guy's an English teacher. There's all kinds of typos to the whole email.
Yeah, there were typos.
English was lower capped. I can tell you, my wife is an English teacher, and she would never lowercase English. And
did it come from any kind of school email address?
No, it was a personal.
It was a personal.
But so I'm a little wary on that. It's actually 100% true.
Maybe he was just quickly typing away.
Could be.
Yeah, it is.
Could be, but from my experience,
stop your lies, Beyond listeners.
We're
a family.
He also said that he was a high school teacher and not a college professor, so that was.
Maybe he was trying to be cool.
But see, I believe that more. I believe it.
Because the guy, I think the guy said he was a junior or senior, or whatever. I could be wrong on that, but it was in high school, so that part was correct. But yeah, there was too many typos for me to believe it 100%. So I'm still 50-50 on whether that's actually correct or not.
But if it was true, that's freaking awesome.
Yes. If it is true, then it's awesome. If it's not true, then you've given us some stories to tell.
Beyond.
Campfire stories that will be passed down from no generations.
Oh, really?
Maybe.
Oh, or
really?
You ever think about that?
If people are going to tell stories?
No,
about the Beyonds?
I'm assuming, let's say we all have kids in here. Are they going to come back and listen to the old podcasts and stuff like that? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
It's weird to think about.
And just sit back and go, God, Dad just kept screaming like a weird, Beyond all the time.
What is this mustache you talked about?
What is the dirt stash?
Dad, what's just the tip mean?
I don't picture him being
now
that
you
young.
crossed the line. We had the line. We were pushing it. You just broke it.
I was not the one that instituted the just the tip comment. All right,
that
was not
and
me.
I'm proud of it.
Wait, speaking of just the tip, we had a little. I'm gonna add this one in here. Unfortunately, I don't have the email in front of me. I forgot who wrote this, but and I will mention next week if he can write in and say we'll include in the show if I can get all the pigeons in a row, or whatever here.
ProPixel
from ProPixel Authorization Diffusion. So here's one more tip that somebody put it on the boards for Wipeout is that you can get there's a trophy for doing 99 laps or whatever it is on a time trial in Wipeout, and if you turn on the assist, I forget what the assist is, it keeps you off the walls, and then basically tape down or use a rubber band or whatever, tape down your accelerator. It'll keep you safe enough that you can just keep going and it'll refill your stuff, and you can leave it for like an hour or so.
Nice.
You come back and you get your silver trophy. So there's a nice little bonus, just the tip. Round 2. Get back in there for seconds. All right, so Ryan, you left the room to go get some tournament winners.
Yeah.
You damn well better have them right here.
I do. Unfortunately, I don't have the ones from this week.
What the?
Damn, what?
That's not even C game.
How is
That's
this my
D
fault?
game.
Beast sends them later on in the day, and sometimes he just misses. It's not
Okay.
his fault.
Hey,
He's
Beast, this
studying
is
dentistry.
This is week
Weak
2.
sauce.
This is week 2 of having to get him in early, Beast. Get it together.
Hold on. Well, last week I wasn't here, so that's why.
Well, all right, whatever. It's week 2 out of 3 weeks, Beast. Get it together.
Anyway, Beast did write into us last week. We couldn't do it because I was not here. But Pro Evo Fan 9 once again won a
He's
game
good
of
at
Call of
games.
Duty 4. And Beast claims it
owns.
was close. Big Boss X, which we answered a question of earlier, lost only by 5 points. We had tried to gang up on him, Pro Evo Fan, but he still won. So this guy must be insanely good at
What were
games.
they
He owns
playing?
people.
What's that?
What were they
Call
playing?
of Duty 4.
So what
COD.
part of the world does he own now?
These are just isolated tournaments until they start up their
little
World
skirmishes?
Challenge again. Yes, skirmishes.
Little civil wars breaking out in the streets.
Indeed.
I see.
Yes.
Well, that's pretty good. I think that pretty much brings us to the end of the show. Does anybody have anything else to mention here?
If you see Clements in
Anybody?
Japan, get him drunk on sake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
By the way, Ryan, I'm going to warn you that even if we have another one, I'm going to make you PSN Hit of the Week next week. So when you come back, you're going to be totally screwed.
Great. And I'll make sure I play a bunch of Is It Fish
Oh yeah.
games.
So let me explain this one for people that haven't been to Japan before. If you go to Japan, there's a game called Is It Fish, and basically what it is, when you go to Japan, every piece of food in Japan has the possibility of having fish in it, or it actually be fish itself, even if it looks like something totally different. You can go get pizza for breakfast that will have fish on it. You can go get a donut with fish inside.
Yeah.
And you can't see that there's fish in
Yeah,
there.
pastry fish.
A lot of times there's fish in places that you can't tell beforehand. So the game is it fish?
Before you eat it?
Yeah,
Like
before-
this?
No. Well, the hope is that you don't get fish at all.
Right.
So when you go to
Unless you like fish.
Unless you but in a lot of these cases you don't want
You,
it where
you don't
it
want
is.
fish in an apple turnover,
Yeah.
and yet you can get fish.
So what happens is you go every time you eat, you're automatically playing Is It Fish because you're trying to buy something that actually isn't fish. It works best at the a la carte places. I
Yeah.
went to a breakfast place when I was there a couple of years ago, and there's all these pastries, and you can see fish on top of a couple of them, and you're like, where else is fish? You're like, I'm gonna go for the safe bets, but even then,
You're not
I know
guaranteed.
Charles lost a couple times when I was with him. He lost like 3 or 4 times. I want
Actually,
to say
Charles
Clayman lost.
and Brudvig lost one time when I went to breakfast with him.
Yeah, so I never lost, but I'm a very picky eater and I was very careful.
Yeah.
But Is It Fish is the greatest game of all time to play in Japan.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose.
The other variant is What Am I Eating? Because like you'll play Is It Fish and you'll realize like you didn't get fish,
What
but
am
then
I-
you're like, what is that?
Is It Fish? With the new game, What Am I Eating?
Oh man.
That's
all right,
awesome.
let's. I think that's the end of the show. Greg, no, Ryan, you got the song for today.
I do
you
have
got
a
something
special song.
I think.
Yeah. Got a special song. Greg's going to help me out here set up his. Do you
He's
want to just
got
lay it
props,
down? I
too.
don't want you to have to. All right.
Tell me how it sounded.
Greg's holding the microphone to the computer to get a little background music going on here.
Can we hear that at all?
Anybody here?
Sort of. Where's the speaker on these things?
Hold on. Let's start this over.
Yeah.
This is
Here's
not
the
working.
There you go.
Okay,
Wait,
good.
No, you had it.
Redo this.
We should have
It's
tested
up.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but still.
this-
I played it already, huh?
Flying by the seat of our pants yet again.
That's how we like to roll. That's good. A lot of the times, we do some really funny songs on Podcast Beyond. I thought I'd do something a little more serious, a little more touching and emotional, as your Outlook beeps at me. This is a song about my PS3.
A night with Ryan Clements.
PS3, I've loved you since I could see the beauty of Sony and its library of games. I'd play all day and smile the night away, and you'd hum as if to say you would always remember my name. But someday you'll imply that you're slowing down to die. With data corrupted and a faulty disk drive. If there's no one to fix you when your hardware's fried, well, I'll keep you on my shelf to say goodbye. One more verse.
Yep.
College class, as boring as watching grass grow on a sunny pass. As I slept through all of his words, I'd be tired when we'd play through the night again, gaming online with friends and a friendly group of nerds. But someday you'll imply that you're slowing down to die. With data corrupted and a faulty disk drive. If there's no one to fix you when your hardware's fried, well, I'll keep you on my shelf to say goodbye.
I'm very sad now.
Oh.
Jesus.
And that's what,
that's a downer.
That's what he's leaving us to go to Japan.
God.
It's emotional.
Damn.
That's the raw emotion
Greg,
of the PS2.
You said they played this at your wedding?
No, not that one.
My cover version.
Not his version.
Oh, wait,
Jesus.
I have to thank Frequency spelled with a PH on YouTube for playing that guitar part instrumental. Thank
Very
you.
awesome.
He didn't actually
All right,
give me
we need to
permission.
end this. We need to end this one on a little bit higher note. Greg, give me a freestyle.
please.
Oh, wiggy, wiggy, wow, and Ryan's going to Japan. You know what's in Japan. There's fish and stuff and square watermelons. Square watermelons.
Is it
square
fish?
watermelons. Is it fish? I don't know. What's that? It kind of blows.
Oh, I was about to do a beat for you.
I was
so
like,
you
you
can
gonna
keep
beat,
going.
and then I'll be back.
No, all right, fine.
Beyond.
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 And now, your final excerpt from the Fracture Review Guide with American history expert Colin Moriarty.
Character profile: General Nathan Sheridan. Born in Albany, New York in 2100, Nathan Sheridan grew up in the heart of the United States military tradition. Receiving appointments to both Annapolis and West Point, Sheridan comes close to following his family's footsteps and going to the Army. Sheridan soon marries and is well on his way to following the roadmap of a distinguished officer and family man. With the arrival of twin daughters, Sheridan's future looks bright, but tragedy strikes at home. His infant daughters are diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder, a 1 in 10 million chance mix of genes from their parents. Even in the 22nd century, there are illnesses that can't be cured, at least by conventionally accepted means. Realizing that a cure for his daughter will never be found on the East Coast, Sheridan resigns his commission and moves his family to the West Coast, where the federal ban on genetic research is ignored. There, he makes use of the best geneticists he can. It is a race literally against time, but ends up being a futile one. His daughters die within days of each other. 6 weeks later, a cure is found. Filled with rage, he throws himself into the cause of genetic engineering, eventually taking him to the front lines of the conflict between the Atlantic Alliance and the Pacific States. When the Atlantic Alliance revokes the rights of genetically modified individuals, Sheridan is ready to take the fight to their doorstep.
This game is the Moby Dick of our time.
Yes.